Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on Zuhua Lake playing as the Tomb Kings against the force of the Empire. And as it was requested recently, we are doing a bit of autogenning here. So, autogen for Tomb Kings, and actually my opponent Bren is here playing as the Empire. Was a great sport about this, and when I mentioned I'm doing autogen, he said he's doing autogen too. So both of these armies are autogen, so if you're seeing some wonky stuff, don't be surprised. I know some of you guys want to see it, so regardless, let's break things down and see what good old AI has given me. So for my lord, this was actually pretty nice. I did get Arc in the Black. He's got his full suite of spells, of course, because autogen does not give you or doesn't take away spells. We also don't have our item, which really sucks. no Tomb Blade of Archon, but oh well. We do at least have the Liber Mortis, which is a great physical resistance save. And Archon himself on a horse, honestly not bad. A great lord choice, to be honest, to land with, given the potential for disaster. Alongside him, we do have a Necrotect here. Necrotect, respectable melee combatant, kind of like a branch wraith, really. He does have Wrath of the Creator here, he does have Stone Shaper as well as Restore, so a decent suite of buffs, but once again, no Vambraces of the Sun, so we're not going to be able to debuff the enemy front line, but at least we can heal our Tomb Scorpion or Shopti if needed. For our front line, it is a mix of Skeleton Spears as well as the Kepler Guard, so honestly not terrible so far. 2 units of Shopti, which of course are decent at mincing through cheap Empire troops. Unfortunately, not the greatest. Nothing here is particularly good against cavalry, which is a bit of a problem against Empire, as my opponent did actually get some good cavalry options. Behind them, the Blessed Legion of Demonetization here. Unfortunately, they've got no other archers here to help them with their damage output, but still, they do have that armor sundering effect, which will be useful. And finally, we do have literally probably the worst artillery piece in the entire game, the Screaming Skull Catapult. And yeah, I did give us a chevron on here. It does have a cool effect, take cover, which debuffs enemy leadership, but honestly, it is literally the trashiest artillery piece in the game. I avoid it like the plague, but we'll see how much use we can get out of it here. On our flanks, we do have 2 units of Skeleton Horsemen. Not a very good cavalry unit, if I do say so myself, but hey, what can you do? At least they can perhaps harass my opponent's backline a little bit. We also do have a unit of Carrion up in the sky, and here on the flank, hidden away because they have Stalk, the Eyes of the Desert, which are the regiment of renowned sepulchral stalkers. They do have Stalk, unlike normal sepulchral stalkers, which can't stalk, and very good melee stats, in fact. And they do have anti-large, which is pretty solid. Bonus of 21, which isn't bad, not Demigriff level, for example, but still very respectable. For my opponent here, he did not get a mage. His lord here, kind of unfortunate, General of the Empire, mounted on a griffin. He does have Foe Seeker, Stand Your Ground, and Hold the Line. All very good buffs, and to be honest, you know, it's at least decent. He'll be able to potentially dive in, do some damage to my monsters, that sort of stuff. An Empire Captain here to stiffen up the line, also with Foe Seeker and Hold the Line, which is pretty cool. Definitely not bad. Our front line is a mix of great swords as well as halberdiers, so definitely far superior to what I've got over there. And then my opponent does have a single unit of crossbows and some swordsmen to back that up. So definitely not a bad front line, far superior to what I've got, though my monsters will probably be able to swing the tide a bit against the infantry. On the flanks, my opponent does have 2 units of Demigriff Knights. One is over here, the other is over here. He also does have a Knight of the Blazing Sun, as well as some Outriders with grenade launchers. So a very wide comp, a lot of cavalry, which is just brutal for me because I got basically nothing anti-large wise. A bunch of trashy spears, and kind of the Scorpion, and then the Sepulchral Stalkers, and that's basically all I got. So this could be a bit rough. My opponent also did get some spears as well as a Hellstorm Rocket Battery, which is immediately teeing off on some troops. Not entirely sure what his target was. This map is honestly kind of bad for this sort of artillery pieces, but we did autogen, so this is what you get stuck with. But yeah, the rocket batteries and artillery in general here struggles at hitting targets on the low ground. Regardless, the Screaming Skull Catapult is teeing off on the greatswords here, trying to rack up some damage, and honestly kind of failing. It does land a meaty hit there, so 4 killed. You know, we've got 6 models down so far, so not terrible. Splashing the swordsman a little bit over there, but definitely not paying its dues so far. Over the Carrion are going to dive in on the Hellstorm Rocket Battery, but the General is on point with Knights of the Blazing Sun, able to quickly dumpster these guys and put them in the trash. Elsewhere, we are pushing forward with our infantry, with our Ushapti, but of course their infantry is a little bit slow. That said, our catapult, you know, working these great swords over, it's actually doing some surprising work, so maybe I'm going to have to give him a shot for real at some point. You can see it's actually doing some stuff here. My opponent's archers, in the meantime, or crossbows, are going to start teeing off on the Kepler Guard. Definitely not what we want, but there's not much we can do about it. The Kepler Guard does need to get into close quarters, and so we're just going to advance and try to get in there. In the meantime, the Demigryph Knights are going to countercharge those Shopti. They themselves getting countercharged by the Scorpion, so it's just an absolute pit fight here. And the Demigryph Knights will do very well against those Shopti here. But we have already taken a model off them, which is nice. And as my opponent is going to shift his infantry over to this flank, we're going to be able to push in with our own infantry and kind of start a bit of a blob fight. Over here, these are Shopti are getting torn apart, but we do drop a Liber Mortis on them, and the Spears and Archon are pushing into the fray to back them up. In the meantime, over here on the flank, I did try to sneak my Skeleton and Horsemen around, but I got intercepted very quickly by my opponent with his Knights of the Blazing Sun, and these guys are going to get shredded. In the meantime, over here on the flank, I do send my Skeleton Horsemen to pursue the Outriders with grenade launchers, looking to remove them from play, because these guys are absolutely a menace to society for the Tomb Kings. If there's one unit that Tomb Kings really do have to fear for their infantry, it is units like Outriders with grenade launchers here. They could just annihilate this blob of troops I've got, so I really need to get them off the field. In the meantime, the Hellstorm here doing some friendly fire, doing some not so friendly fire either to my skeletons, but I do think probably doing more damage than good, given the trash that's left over here. The Shopti are almost gone. You can see the Catapult, though, doing some work against the crossbows, and the Scorpion kind of diving around. I did forget I have the Necrotech, so I didn't get a restore on him just yet, but still, we're getting some value. The Demigryph Knights over here actually pretty badly shredded. And the Swordsmen and the Necrotech kind of pushing through the pocket of infantry. And obviously this was a fight we had basically guaranteed in our favor. All things considered, most of my army here obviously has very little to counter the Cav, which is a big problem. But the infantry fight, my opponent, he's got great swords, but because we've got all these monsters, we've got the Necrotech, we've got a Kepler Guard, which is actually a very respectable unit. We're actually trading all right. You can see the Swordsmen here pulling in from the flank, but we're actually dragging the Demigryphs into the muck. The Eyes of the Desert definitely paying their dues here and able to really butcher these guys, which is pretty impressive. Really, these guys are no joke. I was pretty impressed. You can see they're up to 20 kills now, and a lot of that's been against these demis. Elsewhere in the meantime, Rockets once again mulching through their own troops. The Demigryph Knights getting destroyed. We do hit the enemy General of the Empire with a Spirit Leech, which is pretty nifty. In the meantime, the Catapults continue pounding away at my opponent's troops, though you can see the Knights of the Blazing Sun have gotten into the cookie jar. Of course, we don't really have the anti-large to protect ourselves, and so what can you do? Over here, our Horsemen actually did manage to rout off the Outriders, which is really nifty, but yeah, Knights of the Blazing Sun here farming the backline, and I just don't have the tools to protect them. I have the one unit of Sepulchral Stalkers who are in here fighting the Demigryph Knights, and so we're kind of screwed. In the meantime, the Rockets continue pouring down, doing a lot of work. The poor Tomb Scorpion here getting destroyed, and a fit of greediness, I actually pushed Archon through, looking to get on top of my opponent's crossbows and shut them down. But unfortunately, this means my opponent, spotting this weakness, this moment of bad decision making here, does pull in with his general, does pull in with the Demigryphs, and starts hitting poor Archon over here, and he's really tearing him up. We do get a Spear Leech on the general, trying to whittle him down. Archon is trying to flee, but he's getting blocked up. The Scorpion comes in. Our Curse does go down, melting these Demigryphs and the crossbows a bit, but definitely not where we want to be in life. In a bit of panic here, we are actually going to drop a Fate of Buna on these great swords, which is pretty nice. We're going to be able to melt down their HP a bit and sort of put them in the gutter. In the meantime, over here, this Empire Captain has been forced to flee from the battlefield. Definitely, he's kind of screwed. And over here, poor Archon dodging, juking, bobbing and weaving, trying to escape, but just taking such a beating. And just not really able to sneak by. One of the problems with woods is that it's kind of it's a little bit random if you manage to get past the trees, and he was kind of failing there. That's that front line, going. We're still going. Over here, the Kepler Guard able to butcher the great swords after they got hit by a Fate of Buna. The Ushapti here, stacked on top of the Sepulchral Stalkers, are going to be able to chew through the halberds eventually. We do also have our Necrotech pushing through onto the crossbows, and over here we can see that our Tomb Scorpion finally is going to get torn down by the General of the Empire. That said, Archon actually stabilizes. So on 5 leadership, with almost nothing left, he does stabilize. We used our Ushapti summon to break apart the artillery piece, but now it is disintegrating. He is way out of position, which really, really sucks, guys. Not able to get it back into the fray very quickly. And unfortunately, a bit of misplay here. I completely forgot about these guys. So they're just sitting here looking pretty in the woods and not really doing much. In the meantime, though, my opponent here, you can see pressuring, trying to snipe out my Necrotech. The Kepler Guard pushing in. We are trying to take down these Demigryphs and the Spearmen with the last sort of vestiges of our troops. The Sepulchral Stalkers, they're pushing through, getting on top of the crossbows. But unfortunately, my opponent here is going to spy Archon as he tries to reposition. And he's coming for the goodies. He's coming to finish me off. 27 HP on Archon. Despite our efforts to maneuver, we're not able to pull it off, and the General of the Empire lands a kill. So that is going to be a bit of a disaster. Now, certainly balance of power is still about dead center, but the thing is, it's a bit misleading. My opponent does still have his general in the field. He does still have Knights of the Blazing Sun, so these two very high quality units in decent shape is basically a death sentence. Soon my Ushapti are going to disintegrate. The Kepler Guard is disintegrating. I've only really got the Necro. The Ushapti, obviously not the greatest unit. And so it's really just the Sepulchral Stalkers who my opponent can kind of cycle charge. And so unfortunately we are trying to kind of reform ranks here, get rid of this pocket of spears, but my opponent does just have, he's got troops still around kicking, which is a bit of a problem. We do try to use these spears to zone out the halberds, and then do try to take the general down, but we're just not really in the greatest position. We're not able to dish out enough hurt. The Sepulchral Stalker's getting body blocked by the spears, and General Empire taking almost no damage there. He took like 1 hit, so what can you do? He's going to be able to squeeze away. He took a 2nd hit before making it out, but still, nothing too impressive. And now the Knights of Blazing Sun are going to charge through, certainly losing a lot of charge bonus coming out of the woods like this, but still. Most of these units can't really fight him very well. The Eyes of the Desert are the only unit able to put up a serious fight against them, but they're down to 8, and that's now 7 models. We're now taking crossbow fire in the back, and my cavalry, who actually would have been a huge boon here, is sitting here in the woods, and I only now noticed that they're way out there. So we're finally pulling them back, but it's too little too late there. We did get rid of the halberds, but swordsmen are getting rid of the spears. The Knights of the Blazing Sun are going to be able to grind it out with Ushapti and the Necrotect, and the Eyes of the Desert is almost dead. And at this point, it is going to be GG for the poor Tomb Kings. You can see the Necrotect here falling apart. Kind of the last sort of slivers of hope here disappearing for me. And at this point, we're just getting found. It's funny. These are these like dozen crossbowmen over there shooting away. But the Ushapti are starting to crumble. Once my opponent is able to remove my Sepulchral Stalkers, he's basically got free reign with his general and the knights, and that is going to be game. So we can watch for a few more moments as we are getting torn apart. The Sepulchral Stalker there punting away a soldier, but really just not able to deliver. And finally, it is going to be a full disintegration there. Ushapti really not able to fight Cav very well. Honestly, it's one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of Ushapti. It's just a very uninspiring unit against cavalry, but they do get pushed in here, pushed in against here by the Knights of the Bleeding Sun. We're going to tear them up pretty bad, and the general's in there now. The Necrotech, not really a chance. He's vulnerable to fire. He's only got 50 armor, and despite the horsemen coming in last second to clutch out some kills on these crossbows, or maybe not even get any kills, they just kind of pushed them aside, but it's too little too late. The Knights of the Blazing Sun here are going to get one last glorious downhill charge, lancing these foul undead horsemen down. But these guys have absolutely trash stats. They're getting completely torn apart, and it is going to be disintegration time for the Tomb Kings. So, well played to my opponent. A bit of Autogen hilariousness. So yeah, it was a bit. The game was pretty fun. Obviously, the builds were absolutely ridiculous. I think my opponent's cavalry was a huge game changer there, and I just didn't really get the tools to deal with cavalry. Sepulchral Stalkers actually did really well, and I might have to give them more of a serious shake in game. But in this situation, it just didn't. It just wasn't enough. There were 2 units of Demigryphs they needed to chew through, Lord and Knights of the Blazing Sun, and that was just too much for them for a single unit to handle. And what can you do in that situation? Otherwise, looking over the build, obviously, well, I guess looking over the build, looking at what we got. Arkin, my biggest misplay there was Arkin. If I'd played him more conservatively, kept him in the back, he's gotten more value out of his magic, potentially gotten another Spear Leech in, kept him safe among his troops, he could have contributed a lot more in that fight. And honestly, just my mismicro on him, and then forgetting about the Horsemen was just a double disaster, basically, and really probably cost me the game, because we still managed to pull it right down to the wire. And had I been able to get, say, a Fatal Butte on the Knights of Blazing Sun, or perhaps another Spear Leech on the General, that could have been it. That could have been the game-changing factor there. Otherwise, the Skiing Skull Catapult did surprisingly well. It actually gained a Chevron over the course of that game, and it really chewed up those greatswords pretty effectively, so I was a bit surprised. Obviously, I didn't expect it to do that well. I still wouldn't consider it a good artillery piece, but better than I anticipated. Ushapti, they're okay. They'll munch through infantry, but their low melee stats, or especially their offensive stats, really turn me off. They're not super efficient at killing infantry. It's not like Kroxigors, which for just a couple hundred, for like 100 more gold, Kroxigors will demolish infantry. Like, they will demo derby, swordmasters. Ushapti, their melee attack is only like 23, and I think they get like a 5 bonus versus infantry, so they just don't deliver. But obviously here they did well against the infantry, but that was about it. For my opponent's build, obviously got stuck with no magic, which really sucks. That's just unfortunate, but it happens if you're auto-genning. The general definitely carried that game. Got a lot of value, kind of surprised me. The Hellstorm Rocket Battery also got a lot of value because I couldn't really shut it down. I didn't really have any tools to do so, or any tools to get past the cavalry. Nehekard and Horsemen or Skeleton Horsemen are in fact about the same speed as Knights of the Lazy Sun, so it's a little tough to outmaneuver something when you're so slow. But I think losing the Outriders there probably was the biggest problem for my opponent. Had he kept the Outriders in play, he would have probably been able to decide that match a lot sooner. If he'd used his Demigryphs to sort of shut out my Light Cav, prevent them from shutting down his Outriders, he would have then been able to just use his Outriders to mercilessly pound this infantry pocket and end this match much quicker than it was. But regardless, well played to Prentice here. Obviously beat me pretty handily. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, as usual, don't hesitate to post them, and I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.